Round of applause for Calais. I did my part. I got it. I got mine because I wanted to protect myself and my family. Ultimately, I did it because I was terrified that I would catch COVID again and die. My happy, predictable daily life came to a screeching halt. I can no longer cook, clean, or even pick up and hold my baby for too long before my body begins to shake uncontrollably or is thrown into excruciating amounts of pain. My quiet life has suddenly become very public. And with that has come so much ugliness and bitterness from people who know just the surface of what's happened to me after this vaccine. I have been called a liar and a fake, and have even been told by the ER doctors that this is all in my head. I'm hoping to share my story in an effort to give others going through what I'm going through a voice and to show them that they don't have to be afraid. So for everyone suffering, for everyone being pushed, guilted, and frightened, I see you, I hear you, I believe you, I love you. I love all of you because that is the only thing that is going to get us through this. Thank you, guys.
Drug companies have spent $4.5 billion on lobbying and campaign contributions.
In today's world, Big Pharma decides whether you live or die, and that makes them dangerously powerful.
Mr. Chairman, it is a sad fact that we regulate industries such as machinery and automobiles far better than we do those that affect what may be placed in our bodies.
Pfizer received the biggest criminal fine in US history for mispromoting medicines and for paying kickbacks to compliant doctors.
They're getting paid by the pharmaceutical industry, by the very companies that they're supposed to oversee and to protect us from, that they're supposed to oversee, that they're protect us from.
Well, as far as doctors go, you've certainly seen the best.
The best don't exist anymore. The best are dead.
Well, I don't know about that.
You're the exception, Harry. I didn't mean you. Harry, am I going to die?
I'm afraid so.
My name is Brianne Dressen. I am a 41-year-old preschool teacher.
Everybody, clap, clap, clap. Eyes on the teacher, hands in your lap.
And mother of 2 young kids.
I love you.
I love you.
I met Bree in college when we were both at a climbing gym at an outdoor club event. I saw her climbing with a friend and I thought she was really cute, and we got to talking and set up a time to climb outside together, and a little while later started dating.
He was really kind of a quirky guy when we met.
That's the world's greatest dad.
Even though he was very structured and regimented, he still would go jump out a plane with me and go skydiving or do all these weird trips.
Anytime we could be outside, that's what we've always done.
I married my best friend, I really did.
We have a saying in our relationship, and it's no matter what. I choose you, you choose me. As long as we were together, we would get through everything. No matter what.
It was very scary because they were preparing us for something very bad.
U.S. health authorities tonight say there's no doubt we'll see more of this. Americans sick with the coronavirus who need to be kept in isolation.
I had never been in that circumstance before, so part of the preparation was some of us were elected to go to Rochester to do mass casualty training.
Yeah, I would say it was pretty terrifying to need to be in close proximity with patients that might be giving us a disease that could potentially be fatal.
The clinics closed, the operating rooms closed. Hospitals just became emergency rooms.
I've been through 9/11, Metro North disaster, flipped over tour buses. This is absolutely the worst.
As a physician, I certainly have a little bit more medical knowledge than some in the lay public, but everyone was instilled with fear. So was I.
Tonight, the death toll nationwide has now reached more than 16,000.
During COVID time, I became a news junkie. I never turned my television off.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're becoming crushed under a tidal wave of unfathomable numbers.
The United States now has the most cases of any country in the world, more than 83,000, which means it has surpassed.
Yeah, so when COVID hit, we're like, you know what? We're going to rise above this. This is going to be a big deal. We're going to teach the kids that it's great. So the kids were stuck at home and they hated learning from me, even though I was a teacher.
Nothing's happening.
What's happening?
Nothing's happening. It smells like brown sugar. Let me smell this, Heather.
How did you get on top of the car?
But we really wanted to make the best of it, right? I mean, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Infectious disease experts call it flattening the curve. Should this fail, people in this country, perhaps people you know, will unnecessarily die in a system that can't handle.
Stay home for 2 weeks, right? That's where it all started.
Brianne actually went out and collected N95 masks and took them to the hospitals so that the staff would have masks to protect themselves as they were treating COVID patients. We wore masks everywhere we went. We used hand sanitizer. We stayed away from everybody. You know, if the CDC said do this, we did it.
Today I want to update you on the next stage of this momentous medical initiative. It's called Operation Warp Speed.
Dozens of pharmaceutical companies and biotech firms now working simultaneously on a cure.
When a COVID-19 vaccine is made, it'll be big news.
Dozens of companies in multiple countries racing to be the first to create a COVID-19 vaccine.
Pfizer could soon take a critical role in the COVID-19 battle.
Moderna is performing the first human trial for coronavirus.
AstraZeneca says it's enrolling 30,000 Americans in the late-stage clinical trial and another 20,000 outside the country.
In your hands will rest the final success or failure of our course. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So my friends are healthcare workers, and they found out about the clinical trial, and they said, hey, do you want to sign up with us? And I said, yeah. I qualified as high risk because of my preschool teacher job.
There is no laughing in preschool.
In normal times, it would take 10 to 15 years to get a vaccine to market. Now some companies have reached a clinical trial phase in a matter of months.
I had been accepted into the trial, and then I didn't hear from them for like 5-6 weeks, and I didn't realize it, but at the time it was because the clinical trial had been put on hold because there were issues with AstraZeneca in the UK.
Another drug company hits the pause button on its clinical trial.
AstraZeneca is investigating what caused a patient to have a serious side effect.
There was a case of transverse myelitis and a case of MS.
The patient suffered from a rare spinal inflammatory disorder.
This disease interrupts the messages that the spinal cord nerves send throughout the body, and this can cause pain, muscle weakness, paralysis, sensory problems, or even a bladder and bowel dysfunction.
As soon as the trial resumed, I was in the first batch of people that got contacted to come in.
Dr. Robert Frank says today, for the first time, 7 children between the ages of 12 and 15 enrolled in the Pfizer vaccine trial and were given a first dose.
And first of all, I'd just like to thank you very much for volunteering for this trial, because without you, we never could do this very important research.
Knowing that a vaccine was coming, I was excited. I was like, okay, this is going to end it. I wanted to be the first in line.
Our kids actually came to us with it and said, you know, hey, heard this at school. Some of my friends went ahead and signed up for it, and you know, it looked good. We're pro-science, pro-health, you know, we're educated people, and we want to help.
My name is Maddie DeGarry. I'm 13 years old. I used to do a lot of sports, but like before I got sick, and yeah, I don't know what else to say.
So what are the possible known risks? First, as I mentioned, is the reactogenicity from the vaccine. What we have seen is that if people are going to get symptoms, they seem to have fatigue, headache, and fever.
The side effects were essentially the normal side effects from like a flu, having the flu.
If you think about like when you had a bad cold and how you kind of feel like that for a day. And a lot of people said, well, why do you get those side effects? And I think about that really as showing that our body is responding well to the vaccine.
Right now I'm feeling pretty good, but even just a few minutes ago before I had a snack, I was like, holy cow, this does not feel right. But I don't know, I'm feeling a lot better now. My arm's just a little bit sore. Yeah, that's about it. My ears were ringing for a little bit. I had a little bit of a headache, but the snack fixed it.
It is a swing county. Trump won it last time. We expect it to be very close. This is what you can see. This is today's vote and what we're waiting on here, obviously.
Later that night, my vision went double, and it sounded like I had seashells on my ears, so sound had become distorted. And I remember looking at my husband and just saying, something's not right.
And starting to drop those results right now. It's because of the massive investment people.
It's until after the second shot that we really saw things get bad quickly.
So what's going on right now?
I'm shaking.
What's wrong with your arm?
There was electrical shocks going through her body. You couldn't touch her back.
Her fingers were white, they were ice cold, swollen.
I called the nurse line, told them what was going on, and they directed us to go to the ER.
I mean, it was the scariest thing I've ever seen, but I honestly, at that point, I'm like, okay, she's in a trial, they're gonna take care of her. Like, that's what happens, you know, things can happen, they will figure this out, she will be okay.
In the morning, the sensitivity to sound and light were still there. And that was the last day that I taught.
The first thing we did, because the contract said, you know, if you experience any problems, call the test clinic, right? I run her back up to the test clinic. They do an exam and they say, you might have MS. So you need to go to a neurologist and get that looked at.
They, you know, said, hey, you know, you're just reacting to the vaccine. This is normal. And they sent her home.
Maddie. Hey, babe.
Days and weeks had gone by after several trips to the emergency room. Well, now she started having syncope. She was passing out.
Breathe. Come on, Maddie. Maddie. Breathe, breathe. Okay. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Maddie! I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I think we might go back to the hospital today, okay?
My blood pressure is off the charts. My heart rate is off the charts. My skin felt like it was on fire. My body was on full-on attack mode. The neurologist came in and sat down on my bed and said, you know, COVID's a really hard time. It's a really stressful time on everybody. We see it here in the hospital, you know, it's really scary. And I think maybe what happened is you got really excited and you got this vaccine and you just kind of had a mental breakdown.
Maybe you have anxiety. Why don't you just go home and try to relax?
They blamed all of this on anxiety. If you look at her charts prior to this, she never had anxiety in her charts.
They took the adverse reactions to the vaccine off the table. Not another visit from Children's had said COVID-19 adverse reactions.
So I was sent home after a diagnosis of anxiety due to the COVID vaccine.
Oxford University, partnered with AstraZeneca, is expected to release results of its trials shortly. Sources say it could even be the first to be rolled out.
Today, the Oakland Coliseum will become one of the largest mass vaccination sites in California.
Any way out of that situation was positive.
I dropped everything and ran as quickly as I could and got in line.
I thought I was really doing something, you know, that I happened to be one of the first.
I just figured that as Americans concerned about others,
we would just do it.
And my dad's 60 years old. He's not in the greatest health. Everybody has somebody that relies on them.
I would have been devastated should I have gotten sick without trying to prevent something.
You know, we all get this wonderful vaccine, we all move on with our lives, and we're done.
6,000 people can be vaccinated here behind me on a daily basis. They don't even have to get out of their car to get their shot.
After the first shot, as soon as I pulled out onto the street, my entire face just started tingling.
My face started burning and my vision became a little blurred.
I started getting a headache. It was just a very odd headache. Never had a headache like that before.
Then that pain began coming back up into my chest area.
It literally ripped down my arm. I never felt anything like that in my whole life.
I started feeling tremors, twitching, like it was vibrating inside.
I guess the best way to describe it was like a cell phone inside my body, buzzing and zapping.
I knew I was blacking out, and there was no way to stop it.
Burning in my rib cage, spine, pain in all my joints.
My hips felt like somebody had a ratchet strap around my waist, getting tighter.
I remember kind of coming to, sitting on the couch in our office, wondering why I'm shaking so bad.
2 hours after the vaccine in my left arm, the tremor started.
36 hours later, had nausea, vomiting, and then started having trouble breathing.
The chest pain started and my heart rate shot up. It was really, really high.
I was like on the floor, like nearly having a heart attack.
My feet went numb, my hands went numb. I could not feel my hands or feet. My legs were tingling.
I could feel my body and everything shutting down.
I tried to stand up and my legs wouldn't move. And then I pushed myself off the table and then fell. No response from my legs.
You know how when you hold a baby up and if you let that baby go, how they just, that's what happened.
2 o'clock in the morning, just before 2 o'clock, I woke up and I couldn't move at all.
I can't feel my legs. I can't feel anything.
I realized at that point something bad was happening.
So this started out with tingling in my arm. The day I got the shot. So it was pins and needles in my hand the very first day. And then it turned into blurry vision, so I couldn't see straight. The symptoms just kept stacking. Felt like I had acid going up and down in my veins, and it fluctuated with my heart rate. Right now with my problem, I have to sleep, and I have to sleep a lot, and it's really, really hard for me.
The kids couldn't be near her, they couldn't touch her. The sound of my pants walking by, the swishing of my pants was too loud. If you tried to talk to her, she couldn't say more than 1 or 2 words before just becoming overwhelmed and telling you to go away.
This week marks 4 months of sickness, so I'm doing a lot better, but still a long ways from being independent, so. But, so that's gonna be my week. And then it turned into this incredibly super sensitive sound issue to where my ears are ringing so bad all the time that even just me talking right now is making my ears ring.
She was removed from my life, my kid's life, from her own life. Just completely isolated, hollowed out, suffering. And we weren't getting any answers. It all changed the day of her shot.
Brian is going to get his vaccine on Wednesday, so that'll be good. Because if he got COVID, there really wasn't going to be anyone here to take care of him.
We'll just give a good old Nick.
There he is. Hey, buddy. I know. What are you doing? Come on, here. Here.
This is Nick. Yeah, he's a retired standardbred racehorse. They were racehorses at one point in their careers, right? And now you guys are all retired. And that's the thing, they've been part of my life for so many years. I just can't imagine ever not having them, you know? My husband and I had this barn built in 2006. when we first moved in here and put a lot of work in this place. This was my life dream, you know, and it's home to me. It's where I feel most comfortable. It's my sanity, I always say, and to think that this may be gone someday is pretty difficult for sure, you know. But if this is what I have to do, it's what I have to do, you know.
We really need to make sure that we're providing a consistent message to our team, and we need to make sure that that's also in alignment with what our health system is asking us to do. And so since our last conversation,
late February, early March, as they started getting more readily available to the public, that's when we really started seeing odd things in the emergency room and in the hospital ward.
Patients who are coming in with brand new arrhythmias. They had never had an arrhythmia before.
All I really remember is being laid down in the back of my vehicle and put on a stretcher. They sprayed nitroglycerin under my tongue, and one of the EMTs said, "Okay, that's enough. That's all I need. Send him to Highland. He's had a heart attack or he's having one."
We're now sometimes seeing upwards of 7 heart attacks in our emergency room in a month's time in my small community hospital. What is the catalyst for that change?
Like 20, 30-year-old people, perfectly healthy, no comorbidities, very active coming in, and they've got a blood clot in each leg, one in each side of the lung, covered in DVTs or PEs and blood clots. That doesn't happen. There's no cause for that. And then you look at their chart, and there's no reason for this to happen. But when you go to their vaccine history, sure enough, you'd see, oh, they took the shot a week ago. They took the shot 2 weeks ago. Every single one was like that.
So our hospital system is a vaccination center. You sign a kind of a contract with the CDC. One of the things that you agree to is that you'll report any adverse side effects to the vaccine adverse event reporting system. This was enacted to assure, once you released it into the full population of people, that there was an early warning if there was problems with the vaccines. I didn't know anything about what VAERS was, what it stood for, what our responsibilities were. That was never educated as part of the vaccine rollout. So I started learning how to report these patients on my own, and it was through a lot of trial and error because it's a long process to report a patient. There's so much information that they need.
Acute myocardial infarction, anaphylaxis, coagulopathy, COVID disease, death, Guillain-Barré, Kawasaki disease, multi-inflammatory in adults and children. I just had one yesterday. Myopericarditis, narcolepsy. Vaccine during pregnancy, seizures, stroke, transverse myelitis, and all these others. This is what you're supposed to be reporting, these conditions. So why is it when I'm reporting these conditions, I was audited? I'm doing exactly as the federal government is asking me to do.
Yes, I agree. I understand your position. I'm not discouraging you from doing that.
This is a tote bag of all of my patients. They just keep coming. But all of these ones here are the ones that I have officially reported. This stack of patients are patients that still need reports to be done. I would say it may be close to 200 patients in this stack. So when my hospital told me I could no longer report on patients that weren't my own, I had to stop reporting.
From what our risk team is telling us is that really you can only be reporting on the patients that you are providing direct care for.
And I said, well, are you going to tell the providers that this is their responsibility? Are you going to send out some email, do some education? No. But I said to them, you're a vaccine center. You signed a contract with the CDC that said you will assure that reports be made. You're not doing that.
We want people to get the vaccine, right? We want people to understand that on the whole, this is a very safe vaccine.
I'm in administration, so I thought as an administrator, I would be taken seriously. Not with this, not with this. And it makes me very sad that all of these individuals are never going to have a voice, because that's what this represents, no voice for them. So these patients are all going to be unknowns and unreported. It's really sad. And many of them were COVID positive patients that were fully vaccinated that went unreported. Some of them are deaths. and they're just going to stay in limbo forever.
I mean, for lack of a better way of saying it, we sort of, we toe the company line. That's part of our responsibility is to be supporting the mission of the organization. And when we think that we're,
I was to support the vaccine effort, period, end of story. That is our mission. Never once when I was doing all of this stuff did I ever think you'd be unemployed 6 months later. It's crazy.
It's important to know that in general, a report made to the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, or VAERS for short, does not mean that a vaccine or specific batches or lots of the vaccine cause the side effect. If you've had a reaction following vaccination, contact your healthcare professional and report it to VAERS at vaers.hhs.
We had asked the principal investigator, hey, did you report this to VAERS? Because people kept asking me, and he said, we report it to Pfizer, who reports it to the FDA directly. We don't go through VAERS. I'm like, okay.
When I asked for documentation, they would just ignore me. When asked about, did you report this information about the adverse side effects? And they said, yes, they reported it to their sponsor. Okay, can you give us the information? I would like to know what you reported. No, we can't do that. We already reported to our sponsor.
The doctors that have seen her so far have not found something where they thought it was research related, is what they all were telling me.
One of the first ones says related to the vaccine trial. So, and it happens within 24-hour period, all this went down. So I find it hard to believe that you're trying to steer away from that. They kept saying, these are pre-existing conditions. This is something else. This is not from the vaccine. The vaccine doesn't have these side effects.
When she was admitted, her blood sugar was at 42. She had lost 20 pounds, and then it got to the point where she couldn't swallow liquids.
Maddie.
They stabilized her. That's when they put the NG tube in.
Maddie.
We kept begging and pleading, get us some help. Help didn't come. Looking through any sort of scientific articles to try and figure out what do these symptoms mean. One in particular that was written by some doctors at the NIH. They published an article that said, we need to look out for neurological conditions after the COVID vaccine. These might be potential, so we need to watch for that. So I reached out to them and I said, I saw your article and you're right. And to my surprise, they responded right away. And within 3 days of my email, we were on a telehealth visit with several of their neurologists. And it was pretty eye-opening because it seemed like they were already aware.
When the scientists chose to create the COVID-19 vaccine, they used an mRNA platform. And that mRNA basically hijacks our own cells' construction equipment to create a protein. And that protein they chose was spike protein.
Don't anyone get confused by this. Messenger RNA is not a bad thing. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't exist. It's the middleman, the messenger between what we are made of, this DNA, and the proteins that define us as this unit. The problem with this is the bastardization of the concept and the tomfoolery with nature itself, genetics. According to the manufacturers, they used the spike protein from SARS-2 as the template. The mRNA template encodes to make a spike protein. And then you have spike protein, in some cases, trafficked or brought to the membrane of the cell itself. You're putting little flags on the surface of the cell, waving around saying, hey, I have something bad in me, come and kill me, at least come check me out. Those cells become tagged for destruction.
When spike protein is lingering, either after having had COVID or after having had a vaccine or a series of shots, that spike protein can induce autoimmune phenomena as well as many of the other mechanisms.
The spike protein is a glycoprotein. That's the most common protein in our bodies.
We know spike protein looks eerily like the body and brain, such that our immune system now is getting mixed up.
So if you have proteins in your body close enough in resemblance to the spike protein, you can have the antibodies attack that.
So when spike protein is lingering, the immune system is creating antibodies now against myelin, against the protective coating around the nerves, as well as in the brain.
So unfortunately, they chose a protein that causes our own bodies to attack our own tissue. That's a problem. That's called molecular mimicry. Transverse myelitis is a disease or injury to your central nervous system. Perhaps my condition is from my own immune system responding to that mRNA vaccine and thinking my spinal cord was either COVID-19 virus or COVID-19 virus infected cells and attacking it, demyelinating it, and killing some of the neurons.
There's no other way for the body to see that protein as anything other than foreign. Wherever it's found, attack.
All the COVID vaccines that are available in the US cause the body to make the spike protein. And we did see the same injury happening for Johnson & Johnson, for Moderna, for Pfizer.
We began seeing a deluge of new multiple sclerosis patients, other demyelinating disorders. Usually in these patients, it is not one symptom. They have a multi-system complex disease.
The neurological system, the lymphatic system, the hepatological system, respiratory system, every system we have is being affected. There's immune dysfunction. It's basically immunological haywire. MIS, multi-system inflammatory syndrome. Basically, it's the pro-inflammatory branch or part of the immune system out of control systemically. So you get symptoms occurring, I'll call them symptoms, in many different parts of the body all at once.
I need this out. I can't do it.
When I asked my neurologist, do you think my transverse myelitis is related to the COVID shot? Quote, Joel, I don't want to get involved, end quote.
When I brought up the fact, well, what do you think about the vaccine? Because that's the only variable.
I said, no, it's not the COVID vaccination. The vaccination is safe.
I literally laughed and said, girl, this is all in your head.
I was brought in, given a room immediately, and told that I had had a heart attack and that I may have to have surgery. Hour and a half later, a nurse came into the room and said that there had been a horrible mistake and that I had had an anxiety attack. I was muffled, I was told I was wrong, I was told to go home, and I was told not to talk.
Went to my family doctor that afternoon. He immediately prescribed me with vertigo and a severe panic attack.
So they said, you know what, this is all in your head, so we're going to get you all these antidepressants and get you out of this pain that you're making up in your head. And not only did that exacerbate my pain, but that made me go into the darkest hole of my life.
There's an episode of The Golden Girls that addresses this. Dorothy all of a sudden finds herself extremely fatigued. She knows that there's something wrong with her. She knows that there's something different.
I have heart palpitations. I can't concentrate. I forget things.
Look, Dorothy, I don't believe you're sick. Now, you want to pursue this? You want to spend more money? That's fine with me.
So Dorothy goes to visit a number of doctors in the show.
I want you to see Michael Chang. He's a virologist on staff here at the hospital.
And it was the same kind of thing that we're seeing now. She was told that she had a mental disorder.
Don't take this the wrong way, but have you ever thought about seeing a psychiatrist?
I have seen two.
I think of that episode a lot because I see it all the time here.
We have literally been told by doctors, if this were real, we would have been told by the FDA that this can happen. They aren't saying that, so this must not be real.
There's people that have gotten diagnoses in their chart of anxiety disorder, functional neurological disorder, which is basically a medical term to say they're nuts, when really they have biologic, pathophysiological conditions that are just ignored.
The number one diagnosis with these presenting vaccine-injured patients is something called functional neurological disorder, which I will tell you in this day and age is a dangerous diagnosis. Once that diagnosis is labeled in the chart, it's very difficult to get that erased. It's the first thing that these patients are identified as when they go back to the emergency room.
CT scan came back normal. There was no growths or anything like that. And I went to see the neurologist. He had written in his record of my appointment with him that he had spoken with me at length about functional neurologic disorder, which had never occurred during that appointment. So they set me up with a referral to a well-renowned movement specialist in the city. And without even testing to see if I was experiencing high levels of stress or anxiety, she just said that functional neurologic disorder is typically caused by stress and anxiety. That's what's going on with you. Even my primary care provider, she diagnosed me with psychological conversion disorder.
So once you are labeled with a diagnosis like that, it follows you from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and there's no getting away from it.
I made a decision very early on that I wasn't going to turn into a bitter person because of this. You know, because that'll just make it worse for everybody. And this is already a pretty terrible situation as is.
This is not okay. You only had 2,000 kids in this trial. 1,000 of them got the vaccine. 1 in 1,000 is a lot.
But talking to the doctors that I've talked to, I did write each one of them, and they're not telling me that they think it's research related.
They kept pushing. It's just functional. It's just functional.
When she had that officially put into her chart, it was the day before they submitted for the emergency authorization. The day before.
Today, Pfizer announced its vaccine is safe and effective and generates a robust immune response
against symptomatic disease in kids ages 12 to 15.
I'm Ernest Ramirez. I'm the father of Ernesto Ramirez Jr. I raised Junior since he was a baby. I always felt that he was going to do wonderful things in this world because I was going to try my best to teach him. I didn't want to see my son sick. And in April, I took him to get the vaccine. 5 days later, my neighbor asked me if she could take Junior and her son to go eat and go play basketball. I gave him some money. I gave him a hug and a kiss. Told him to be good. They called me if he needed anything. That was the last time I spoke to him. My neighbor called me later on, screaming that something was wrong with Junior. So I raced to the park. They were loading him up on the ambulance. And when I got to the hospital, they just acted like nothing. They just said, "Oh, your son's dead." Like it meant nothing.
Now, what parents really care about is what's the worst thing can happen. We do know that for males under the age of about 30, there is an increased incidence, it appears, with the vaccines of a rare side effect of an inflammation, mild inflammation of the heart called myocarditis. And it's very mild. They go to the hospital, they're looked at, observed, given a little bit of ibuprofen, a pain reliever, and they go home, and they seem to be doing just fine in follow-up as in the studies that we've been looking at.
A lot of the people with myocarditis, if they do tissue staining of people that have inflammation of their heart, again, myocarditis just means inflammation. What they'll see is it's full on staining, it's full of spike protein.
And they've done pathology on teenagers who've died after receiving the vaccine, who've died from myocarditis. And what they find pathologically is that the heart inflammation does not resemble the standard heart inflammation that you'd expect from normal myocarditis. This is inflammatory, cytokine-driven myocarditis, similar to what you'd see in multisystem inflammatory syndrome.
Pathology is, data gathering, like patterns. What's out of
position in this pattern? What's out of proportion in this pattern? I have the autopsy tissues of a young man right here on my desk. 14. He didn't need that shot.
Look. This is my stomach con.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
The second MRI was of her brain. And when she woke up, she could not control her neck.
I'm here with you, okay? Maddie. Maddie, breathe.
Yeah, I don't even, like, you try to block it out because you don't want to remember that. From the beginning, they've ignored everything that happened to her. They acted like it didn't matter. Like it was nothing.
Maddie, you can breathe. Breathe. Maddie. Maddie.
You think that if something happens, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they figure it out. They did not do that at all.
I didn't want to live like this anymore. How do I make this stop? This needs to stop. And I remember asking my husband, I was like, I need this to stop. Just help me make it stop. And my son, my beautiful boy, heard me say to my husband, just let me die. I just need to die. And that terrified him.
And as I lay in bed there, thinking, oh my God, can I live like this? Can my husband live like this? Like, what if I'm in a wheelchair forever? Like, a normal person like myself was thinking of ways to kill herself. That is not normal. And I'm not saying this for you to feel sorry for me. I'm saying this for people to understand to the depths of which this is beyond frightening. When nobody has answers, nobody has a lifeline, doctors have no idea, nobody knows how to help you, and when you do go for help, they tell you that you have anxiety and you're crazy and it's in your head.
It was really hard to explain to my 8-year-old who saw me convulsing and not able to control my body, and my husband had to sit on me to hold me still. He was terrified, and I had to try to tell him I was going to be okay, knowing that I had no idea if I was going to be okay.
Like, is this going to be my life forever? How much longer can I feel this sickness? Am I gonna die tomorrow? So you're trying to like make memories with your kids, but you can't even make the memories with your kids because you're so sick. What's the future like 2 years from now, 5 years from now? If I even make it to 5 years.
I felt that if this illness didn't go away quickly, I was thinking about ending my life. The symptoms were unbearable, and I've never been suicidal in my life.
And in my mind, I'm thinking, for the world, if I die, everybody would be better off. My wife wouldn't have to drive up there every day. She wouldn't have to worry about things.
She wrote a letter to our son, trying to explain the love that she had for him, how she was proud of him. But when I read it, it was obvious that she was trying to leave him a message for when she wasn't here. I mean, to have your wife, the mother of your children, who was perfectly fine before, now get to this place where they're writing goodbye, have a good life, be the best you can be to their child, brought me to my knees in tears. That's the only reason she didn't write one to her daughter, because she saw that.
I'll never forgive myself for what this has done to my kids, what I have done to my kids. A little boy should never have to worry about that.
this is real. I have located several people that pretty much have some of the similar issues that I have. And the only thing that they've done different was receive the vaccination.
We're supposed to work with my neurologist here with the NIH, and the NIH was recommending steroids, IVIG, plasmapheresis, those types of remedies. And my home team here wanted nothing to do with it.
When we went to the NIH, it was, we're going to figure out what this is, we're going to find out what helps, and we're going to tell everyone about it. That's what they were promising.
They told us that they were going to publish the data they were gathering on us. It felt amazing to be selected to go. They selected medical professionals, and for some reason, me.
NIH diagnosed her with non-length dependent neuropathy,
severe postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, post-vaccine neuropathy, tinnitus, and short-term memory loss.
And the IVIG has really helped to knock that down.
Here is my packet of IVIG. So this is a bunch of immune cells in here. It's not a silver bullet, it's not the cure, but it definitely is giving me my life back.
So in March of 2021, I crossed paths with Dr. Denise Hertz. And she is a fierce force for good. She was injured by her COVID vaccine. And she had found 3 or 4 people at that point that were like us. Hey, Denise, it's good to see you.
Hi, Bree. Good to see you too. After my comment that I wrote in Neurology Today, and I started getting emails from people all over the world, several women in the United States contacted me, and Bree, I believe, was the second person to contact me.
I'm expanding my diet a little bit, and I doubled my low-dose naltrexone dose, which was awesome.
That is a magical drug. I've been on it now for over a month, and it's really helping me a lot. I wish I had started it a long time ago.
And so she said, hey, let's exchange emails. So she put us all on this little email string together, and we were all relieved to be there together.
Our lives never would have collided in any way if we hadn't become ill. We live in different states and all different walks of life.
So it was really amazing to be able to finally connect with even just a few people that knew exactly what I was experiencing.
I finally connected with them. Bree was one of the ones that I connected with.
It was April or May, and she was terrified. She was scared. Her daughter was in the hospital, and my way of helping her was to listen to her. And I stayed on the phone with her countless nights while we both cried about what was happening to Maddie. We commiserated, we laughed. We have a lot of really dumb inside jokes now.
Actually, I found a family. There's a core group of us. It's not a day that we don't talk. It's not a day that we don't type to each other.
As time went on, the group continued to grow, and it got bigger and bigger. So Denise and Christy Dobbs set us up in a Facebook group.
People started telling me, hey, there's a group out there of other people like you. And I joined it.
She said, okay, we have a group with a whole bunch of vaccine injured people.
And the Facebook group got really big really quick. And before we knew it, we needed another Facebook group and another. And then there were thousands of us.
At first, when I joined these groups and I started reading through everything, it was a bit overwhelming to see how many there were on there and how many symptoms there were after the vaccine.
These groups are pretty much the only help that people are getting.
Denise Hertz is on an email string with the heads of the NIH, the heads of the FDA, and the CDC, and they're all telling her, hold off, don't say anything, just give us a couple of weeks and we'll figure this out.
If you look at VAERS database, there are more than 1,000 neurological side effects already reported.
And that was March of 2021. They flew COVID vaccine injured into the NIH to be researched because of our injuries. They told us that they were going to figure this out. So we told everybody, hey, just hang on. Help is coming. The NIH is going to publish. And then that would open up the door for everybody to get care.
We've been at battle against the pandemic, and there's been damage. Seems reasonable to say, let's help these people.
So the NFL player gets on the phone with a senator,
And it's like, hey, check out these videos.
I'm Ron Johnson. I'm the U.S. Senator from Wisconsin. Originally, when I heard that Ken called me, I just called him up. He's a Green Bay Packer Hall of Famer. You know, I know who Ken Ruckers is, so this is kind of cool.
My name is Cheryl Rutgers. I live in Oregon. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and a grandmother.
His wife, Cheryl, had suffered a vaccine injury, and he just wanted to know, is there something I could do to help?
I want our neurological injuries to be recognized and acknowledged by the CDC and the FDA.
This is a group of people that have a very simple request. They just want to be seen. They want their stories heard. They would like to be believed.
I told Dr. Nath at the NIH that I was going to do that press conference, and he commended me for my advocacy. And he told me that there were two things that the world needed to know, and one is that this was treatable and that early intervention was key.
I just wanted to say thank you all for being here to hear these stories. As you can see, we are like family. We have suffered together for so long in a way that no one understands but us.
Unfortunately, all I could do was create a platform and hopefully trigger some compassion.
We are asking to be seen, we are asking to be heard, and we're asking to be believed. Thank you.
No Brasil, em caso de suspeita de evento adverso, entre em contato com notifique@proton.me. Deve-se notificar qualquer suspeita de reações adversas, mesmo que nem todos os dados sejam conhecidos.